All righty. I will call to order. This is the regular Michigan City Tree Board meeting, Wednesday, December 4th. Roll call, please.
Connie Anderson here. Barb Ginther here. Laura Henderson here. Laura Koch absent. Johnny Stimley absent. And Mick Wolf.
I am present.
Okay, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Everybody have a chance to look over the meeting minutes from November.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes for November 6th passed and present. Passed. Secretary Treasurer's report, that ending November 30th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
We have Secretary Treasurer's report has been approved. Claims for December. That is Debbie Wilson for her secretarial services, $200. Board member compensation for attendance.
Move for approval.
Second.
Everybody.
Aye.
I'm trying to remember. I got a million things going on. I'm just trying to work myself through it. Okay, claims for December have been approved. Any communications? Any kind of communication? No, done? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move down to committee reports. That's the outreach team. That's myself, Laura Kolk, and Laura Henderson. Topics: education, gardening and landscaping, monthly news and tips, public relations, calendar events, and Arbor Day. Education, I don't know if we have anything education-wise.
Oh, I just wanted to say that Shirley Hines Land Trust is holding a winter tree identification workshop this Saturday. So here's the information. It's from 9:30 to 2:30, and it's at Barker Woods. It'll be partly indoors and partly outside, and you need to RSVP. So if anybody wants this,
for the public here,
show it to
real quick. There is the Shirley, the land trust out off of, it would be a Mere Road. There's an entrance there. 900 North, there's an entrance there. I had the first time by chance Wednesday afternoon take a little walk down the trails.
Oh, we went in Rambler Woods. That's
I thought, I mean, for the people out there in Michigan City, if you want a nice walk, even I could probably see that snowshoeing and even cross-country skiing for those kind of people. Those are some long trails back in there.
Yes.
I had gone out there when the wind was blowing at 60 miles an hour. I was a little scared, to tell you the truth.
I would think so.
I was like, okay. So I would definitely, in my plans, go out there and explore these trails, at least on that area over there. And I know there's some other ones around. So for everybody, just a little thing there that I did check out myself. I was quite amazed, and I will certainly go back out there and look at it again when I'm not ready for my life.
And this workshop is actually at Barker Woods, not out on Mere Road. So it's right in town.
All right, so let's see, landscaping. Well, we're getting toward that. We already had our little first snow. I think the leaves are pretty much down. People are struggling to get them up. Yeah. So, some of the people don't get their leaves up. The leaves around the plants and the flowers themselves kind of insulate the ground, which is actually a kind of a plus for everything. I wouldn't recommend, and I don't recommend to my customers that you really go and you deep clean your gardens for the winter. That's something for the spring. If you haven't already done it, I'd leave it in there for a while. It'll actually help you out. So that's my big landscape tip of the day. Let's move down. Public relations. I guess that's this here. Calendar events. We're kind of at the end of the year here. I don't have anything. Do we have anything pending.
Oh,
And Arbor Day, we will take up here the first of the year. All right. That's city park trees. Jessica, anything?
Yeah, so I was just chatting a little bit before we started that I, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, toured a couple of different nurseries and decided to go with Dogwood Hills Tree Farms. They've got amazing looking trees and a lot of diverse species as well. But anyways, we have 195 trees that are coming for spring. I'm going to go out and start tagging them next Thursday, actually.
Where is this nursery at?
It's east of here, about an hour and a half or so. It's almost to Ohio, but it's in Indiana. And like I said, I spoke at length with the owner, and he's a gentleman who has been working for that particular nursery since he was 12 years old. And then he and his wife purchased it from the previous owner, I think within the last few years. But they take meticulous care of their trees compared to some of the other nurseries that I toured. And so I was just really impressed. We have the money, we have the budget, and I'm excited.
Okay, yes, that sounds very exciting.
Yep.
That would be the first time in a very long time that we went out and bought mass amounts of trees.
Right. Well, and they're grown in the ground. What I am going to do is I want to stagger, the plantings throughout the spring so I don't overwhelm my staff and our watering capabilities. And so we just let them know which ones we're going to come get. They get them out of the ground, they ball them and burlap them, and then they help us load them all up on our trailer and strap them down and tarp them, and then we bring them to Michigan City.
oh, good.
So I'm going to work, over the next few weeks, getting a more concrete schedule. But I've gone and I've done, a number of, site evaluations, looking at areas that, are in more desperate need of city trees than other areas. And I'm probably going to start kind of in the Midtown area. It's pretty bald in there. It looks like there's been, just years and years and years of removals without any sort of replenishing.
Yes, it has. And then the ash borer kind of took out
Right.
what was left in there. That was the iron tree of
Yep.
the area.
Yep. My assistant and I, too, over the next couple of months are going to work on obtaining our CDL licenses so that we ourselves can drive the water truck. It's a 2,000-gallon water truck that we have. And that way we don't have to rely on street department employees and their schedules, that we have the watering capacity ourselves. So we can make sure that, all the trees are properly watered and cared for
And
when
who's
they go
your
in the
assistant?
ground. Lemuel Porter?
All righty.
Yeah.
How big are we talking diameter trees?
Some of them are 1.5 to 2, and some of them are 2 to 2.5.
Okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
decent size.
Yeah. So people don't know there's a tree.
Because when that water truck pulls out.
Right.
What are some of the other places that you toured?
I went out and looked because I wanted to be able to pick them up ourselves and sort of save costs that way. So the two closest were the Dogwood Hills Tree Farms, and then I also went to Possibility Place in Illinois. Yeah. I mean, they were great as well. But I kind of wanted to stick locally in Indiana, and have an Indiana nursery. And like I said, the tour that I got from Dogwood Hills Farms was just spectacular. I mean, they hand prune all of their young trees, and make sure that they're, suited, particularly for urban environments. And I was just really impressed. We're going to get a good stock.
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear you're utilizing Indiana.
Right. That's important to me,
It is to me too, right. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grant application maintenance. After the first of the year, really going to start getting that calendar together. But like I said, a lot of the due dates look to be at the end of summer and into fall. So we've got some time there. And I think things will slow down a little bit, especially throughout the rest of December and January, and sort of start more long-term planning in that regard. Purchasing and tree planting, well, we just talked about it. So,
Okay.
So are the trees you got, are they mostly for tree lawns or for parks or for both?
Mostly for tree lawns, but they can be for both. For the parks, I was actually supposed to meet with Andrea Nichols this morning from NIPSCO, but we're going to meet early next week instead. But we've got a schematic going for how we're going to replace the trees in Washington Park along Lakeshore Drive, what we're going to do there. So that should be something that happens pretty early in the spring as well. So we're going to get some park trees too.
Well, the park trees too. I mean, outside of that ribbon down Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get a little bit crazier with the trees that will be in the park itself.
Right.
When they decide to do that, I would like to see a little more. There used to be a very good collection back in the day, but with certain things that taken them out and died back. So
yeah, I know that Jeremy, the park superintendent, had talked about wanting to add a few shade trees down to the Federer's Alley, and so I've included that in sort of the little map that I sent to Andrea with marks on it, where I was thinking things would be appropriate. And then he also wanted to spruce up down by the gazebo as well. So I was thinking that some river birch down there would look really neat. There's one down there already.
Okay.
And,
gazebo.
Yeah.
Right. Just in my own, the river birch, they need a god-awful amount of water.
Yep. They love their water.
They got to sit in a water hole to do good.
Yeah. They need a lot of
Washington Park's like a desert.
Right. But
so that's my only little concern there. I mean, we don't go plant willows down there.
No. Well, the one that's down there looks like it's doing pretty well, but I like them. They're a really pretty, flashy tree, and around that gazebo area, I thought they'd be nice. So
sure,
yeah.
And around the gazebo there, with I guess we have a lot of just married couples go down there for their pictures, and I know the older people like to go down there. It's a nice area there.
Yeah.
All right.
A couple of years ago, Amanda and some of the high school kids were planting a lot of trees in Washington Park. Did they mostly not make it?
I don't know. I know that they had planted some in Hanson Park. Yeah. I don't know about Washington Park. I don't spend a lot of time in that park. So I don't know. That's a good question. I can go scout around.
Yeah.
All right, planning department. Tell you the truth, I haven't really heard anything. I haven't really been looking for anything either. So I'll have to. I don't know what they got up their sleeves down there.
Right. Well, I've been trying to get going on this the tree inventory. Going over those bids. It turns out that we had to re-advertise the RFP because some of the wording. The way that the NDOT funding works is that it has to be like a really comprehensive right-of-way asset inventory. So it has to include everything, at least in the wording. And we put the word tree in the title, and so they made us re-advertise it. I feel like our project manager at NDOT should have caught that, before it was, before we, went into the full
in the tree.
asset inventory. Yeah, so
stop signs and
light poles, rocks, any sort of obstructions in a right of way. So, yeah.
Well, that's gonna really kind of drive costs up.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, the cost is set. What NDOT's giving us and what our match is, it's set. So they can't go over that. But we'll just have to wait and see how that. It's already re-advertised, and we're just kind of working with those that had submitted proposals, letting them know what the changes are, and then just seeing if anyone else submits a proposal.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So originally this was going to be focused on trees?
in the end, that's what it's always going to be focused on. But in order to secure the funding, it has to be more comprehensive than just trees.
Are we going to lose out on some of the organizations that would focus on trees because they got to do all this other stuff too?
That I don't know. I'm not entirely
That
sure
would
yet.
be good.
Yeah, but I know that
Hopefully it won't be a
LaPorte
draw.
had the same. They had the same. They had the same grant,
Uh-huh.
and they got a great tree inventory out of it. So
Okay.
I think it's just about meeting the criteria of the grant, and
That's
then
not going to compromise the quality of what we get.
no, I don't think so.
Well, there already is something out there. A lot of it is probably going to be updating it more than anything and putting eyes on what is there. I mean, they won't, other than putting the cursor on and the GPS. That's. It seems like we've done one every 7 years since 2000, so this would be the third one. There should be, with technology, it should, a lot of it should be there and can be pulled over. Especially, Davies was the one who did the last two, and I imagine they have the information and the wherewithal to adapt it to their new programs. So
Right.
maybe that might save us a little bit in the long run. All right. Well, when do they expect there to reward that? Somewhere first of the year? Or?
I'm hoping so. Yeah, I'm hoping so.
That is the Urban Forest Management Plan. Tree City designation, I guess that's...
I just submitted that.
You just... Okay.
Yep. So it's in, the way that the sort of components came together. I mean, we're way well within the range of qualifying, given the amount of expenditures that we have per capita. So.
No, I'm not sure. I know they have little sub deals. Maybe we can get if you plant so many trees within a calendar,
They do.
You can get a little extra something.
That's what I was going to work for this coming 2020, especially when we have our trees going in. So yeah, I've been looking at those, the sort of added designations.
Alrighty, goals, fundraising efforts. Probably getting to the end of the year, but I definitely think maybe next year we set some goals. When we have some lofty goals right now with the tree planting, I don't know if we want to. I think we'll probably have to. Tree planting more, getting those in the ground is probably the first priority, and then working out with the outreach for the kids and adults after that. But that should be something, and that's probably your forte there. So, I would like to get it back into the schools a little bit, and those physical science classes, and teach those kids, because society as a whole has missed that whole generation gap with what we're trying to do now. The kids are clueless.
Right.
So,
After everything settles down after the holidays, it was my plan to start reaching out to some school officials and sort of see about different programs that we can implement. I was at a community meeting, the quarterly meeting, a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that they were talking about is that different sort of like local school district campuses can sort of implement small scale planting programs, but then work towards something similar to, and I mean, we could create our own sort of standards and criteria for it, but something similar to like the Tree City campuses or the tree campuses, or Tree City USA, but sort of have like our own designation of, like a Michigan City, tree school or something like that. And sort of, implement educational programming, sort of geared at that, and having the students involved in that way. I thought it was a really neat idea.
Well, I think we had sort of wanted to incorporate that our project basically of the zoo garden, and I think that was one of the things that we were sort of hoping, because that group that Johnny has. He has a group of young people that work with the zoo stuff. And that was one of the things that we sort of thought, too, would be a good idea, was to somehow incorporate that little garden there into some kind of an educational program, too. You know, we just hadn't gotten that far yet to figure it all out. But, yeah, that we were hoping that would be, that garden space would be of use for that, too. You know.
But there might be, a little bit more hands-on in the classroom. You know, the kids getting the full effect.
Right.
Like, you could see some pamphlets or something, but something for, go out and planting trees with the kids. That's great and all, but on school property, they're getting beat up with the solar panels.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of kids, I guess, really have never experienced a garden experience, and even coordinating that with the zoo and the animals and what they can eat and what they can't eat and that sort of thing. And then I think we're going to have, of course, there's going to be some fruit trees and berries and things like that. So some kids probably have never experienced that.
I'm sure of that.
So hands-on with that, I would think, would be a nice little project.
Well, different school systems, depending on where they're located, more of the country schools and have more of an agricultural feel to it. Michigan City seems to be right in the middle of the proverbial dot with a little bit of everything. Industrial, with the kids vocationary wise. If you were to go, up north or even down south where the school systems are in the middle of farm fields, their vocationary is teaching the kids how to farm and that type of stuff.
Well, 4-H
we need kids to do everything here, from carpentry to welding to even, I guess, we're not going to count the kids out, but there's future farmers. And I think Indiana has a very big chapter in these future farmers of America. And I think they even had their big thing down in Indianapolis. But there's a big whole, there's a lot of people out that way that, 4-H and all those kind of things. I don't think Michigan City has a 4-H affiliation.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's
Well, they do, but it would be through LaPorte County. It's not actually Michigan. It's very limited. But they do have a 4-H group, basically.
All right. Just brainstorming for everybody. All right. Let's see. Old business here, the workman's comp. We'll have to really work on that this coming year. Application and planting the trees in the tree lawn. I know Laura was working on that deal.
Oh, I sent that over to the planning department, and they said it looks great. So I was just going to contact our webpage guy and have him put it on the tree boards page within the city website. Good.
Cool.
Yeah,
so
I was
we
thinking
can knock
too.
that one off there.
Yeah. And one thing I think we should do, and maybe I'll look into this, if I can't get to it this week, next week, but I think it would be worthwhile to do like a press release about something like that, right? Just to let people know. Yeah. That, this is something that you can do. The paperwork is on the website.
Okay. We can discuss a more opportune time, probably more toward the spring. Alrighty. Cool. That thing's taken care of. New business. Approval of the final 2020 budget. That is, let's see. Basically, in short here, salaries and wages for board compensation, $6,000. Employee benefits is $459. For total personal services, $6,459. Office supplies, $100. Other services, memberships, such as membership and dues, $500. Education classes, $1,000. So That's $1,500, so brings the expenses total to $8,059. That's what the tree board is asking, and so I guess if anybody has any questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Michigan City Tree Board has approved their budget for 2020. Thank you, Jen.
Where does the 50,000 fit into, and do we show that in our budget?
Oh,
This
that's
is-
under it's under vector control. Yeah,
Yes.
it's under my
Oh,
department.
okay, all right.
This is just for us around the table.
Right, but I wasn't sure how that showed.
Yep. Yeah, it's under my department.
And she's spending it, no.
I'm spending it.
Okay, the nominating committee here to present this slate of officers for 2020.
Laura, you wanna?
Sure. We're really going to shake things up a lot.
We are.
Okay.
We are nominating Mick Wolf for president, Laura Koch for vice president, and Barb Ginther for secretary.
Because we're very happy with the work that all of you do.
Okay.
And
Well,
Johnny said you're doing a great job. So we
that is the slate. The slate is open for the next 30 days until, so we will have an election in January for this proposed slate.
Okay.
Board member comments. Debbie, please, if you can, I know you had a couple letters and agreements with Mrs.
Dallas.
Mrs. Gallus on her property. I think we'll take that up at the first of the year. We're going to have some issues with that.
The trees are not.
Unless she wants to blow holes in the driveway, it's the only way it's going to happen. So we will look into. I just want to see what we said, and then we will hand it over for. I don't see it happening the way that we had anticipated. I think she had plenty enough time to work it into her scheme of things, and it did not work out. She's got two, probably, they were far from mature. They were probably middle-aged. One red oak, one white oak. The pre-planting, we wouldn't have been here if there was some pre-planting done on it, but there's no way you're going to put two oak trees back into that, what's left. So I think she's going to have to compensate the city for it. And we'll have to go ahead and figure it out and take it to the Board of Works for... And we have to... Not saying that we have to do it just because not for her, but it's an action that we need to take and figure out how to navigate through it. So it's going to be a learning experience for all of us, because I don't know of any going down that route with anybody before, but it has to be. I think there's too much. I don't want to say we're leaving this asset on the table that's not getting picked up. I mean, not just on the residential side, but it goes for a car accident too, where somebody blows over a tree. I think that's money wasted, and we're not getting recouped for it. So somehow we have to close that hole. And that's probably, a car hits a tree, that's $500.
Right.
Just one.
I've developed put together some letters to send out in, when people violate the tree ordinance, the tree protection ordinance. I wanted to kind of get a sense, too, for how the new administration wants to enforce that and sort of like what.
I did forget about that.
Yeah.
Deal.
Right. But I have them all drafted, because a couple of other properties have come to my attention. And so I'm just kind of waiting to see sort of like what.
And there are a couple of trees run over on Michigan Boulevard.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, it's got the replacement schedule and the fee schedule as well. And I've also contacted the controller's office to make sure that we have that fund actually set up so that when people pay those fees, the money can go into it. But yeah, we're just going to have to sort of see, what the nature, what the character of enforcement is going to be. But yeah, I've got all the paperwork ready to go.
That's probably the best word analogy we can use. Because we definitely have to work on that way. There's your time, there's other city time, and just
right. That's another thing I think too we should have a press release about as well, because there are a lot of private residents who don't know about the new ordinance. They don't know that certain trees are protected. And so that's something else that we might want to do is find a press release, find a way to publicize this ordinance.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? How does a homeowner get the information concerning the tree protection ordinances? Would they come into the office?
Right, they could, or they can look up all the ordinances online. Right.
But basically, they're not just familiar with it in general.
Right.
In general.
And it's not something that most, I think, homeowners, it's not something that comes to mind when they're planning, whether it's property improvements or so on and so forth. Like most people know, if you want to put a pole barn on your property, you have to get a building permit, right? But for some reason, it's just not as foregrounded that, if you're removing trees in the process, you need to get a tree removal permit as well. And so, I've explained the ordinance to a few private residents, and the common response is, well, why do I have to get permission to take down a tree that's on my property? And when I explain it in terms of, well, when you put a new building on your property, you have to get a permit too. It clicks and it makes sense. And so I think it's really just about sort of, educating the public on what the ordinance is intended to do. It's not intended to, have us go out and say no to everything. It's about, I think in a lot of senses too, it's about collecting data. So if people are removing trees or are getting tree removal permits, sort of knowing what it is that they're taking down so that we can account for that in our future planning as well. So there's a lot of ways that this ordinance can be employed to our benefit. But yeah, I think getting the public educated about, what it means and how it functions is going to be the first order of business, and then sort of, discussing with the incoming administration sort of what, like I said, the character of enforcement will look like.
The reason I asked was because I'm all for the educational part of it too, because I think so many people, they just don't realize that there's things in place
right.
that, are guidelines before you dig, call, and exfoliate.
Yep.
So that's what I was wondering, if we could put a packet of some sort together.
That would be excellent. That's what I was thinking too.
I would like to do that. I just the historic district in Michigan City, I just did a packet and took to.
Would you want to draft something?
Well, I'm not sure what it is myself. That's why, I'm thinking education is so good, because I don't even know myself, and here I am on the tree board, but I don't really know. But yes,
Or I could draft something too, or get you the relevant information, and we could put a packet together.
The other education, but there's a couple other different aspects. I mean, if you're going into a pole barn or a building or something like that, this is going to keep. We're running into a lot of problems in the Shoreland Hills area with the large forested lots and people clearing the whole thing out.
Right.
That happened on US 12.
Right.
There were several incidences all over. Okay. Well, when you go in there, you're gonna the landholder is going to put a question mark. If I'm going to clear my whole land, then he's going to have to reforest that land with a ratio of what he took away from it. Okay, so you can keep the canopy going. So that's where the problem is happening is, yes, we're taking down an oak tree here. You're taking down one because it's very mature. That's not going to get you, that's not going to fall anywhere. You're going to have to replant it. The one here or the one there. It's the new building where they take down several oak trees and maybe there's a smaller one over here. Well, that one should be protected, and you have to have some kind of protection. Put a fence around it, something to keep that one going. The future generations, or you're going to plant so many of them for future generations. That's where the ordinance is in the practice. Now, there's another ordinance, our ordinance, which deals with the street trees. That one's still there. That one you're going to find under, the Michigan City tree. The other one's going to be more in the planning department in that ordinance that they approved earlier in this spring. I think when it was at 1140, or I forget what it was.
The reason I'm even interested in this basically is because of the real estate aspect of it. Because there is, we have realtors selling properties that they have no idea. They have no idea that, number one, they could be in a historic district. Number two, if there are any guidelines whatsoever about removing trees on a piece of property, they sell the property. The owner then wants to go in and clear out the property, and they don't realize that they can't just do that. So that's what I'm looking at.
And that's where your pamphlet idea, when you got to take
future. You've
got to take your plans to the planning department for approval, and this is going to be one of you're going to have a site evaluation on them. Michigan City this ordinance was adopted for the build out of different areas, more on the north side of Michigan City, where there's big open swaths of buildable land, where people want to have tree-lined streets, bigger houses. That means more taxation money coming in. They're going and looking at that crowd moving from Illinois over here. Okay, they don't want the cookie cutter. They don't want the beach walk deals where everybody's living on. Everybody wants a little piece of land. Lots are going to be bigger. Okay, different townhouses, apartments, stuff like that. It's going to have a whole new streetscape than what Michigan City. It's going to be a more modernization of
Well, that's why we
neighborhoods.
need something now
Right.
to help guide. Because I am a broker, basically I am interested in making sure that the brokers in the area who are selling these pieces of property, Mickey Gallus probably did not realize when she sold that piece of property.
Well, there's a whole. Well,
you see what I'm saying, though?
right.
Yeah, Mickey Gallus, if she had something in her office, 3 or 4 pages that she could have flipped through it, whatever, and then saw where the permit you have to get, whatever. I mean, then she would be aware of that, and basically that's called. You have to give acknowledgement to those types of things when you're selling properties. That's a real estate, that's a broker's responsibility. So I was surprised Mickey got into that situation because obviously she didn't realize that she couldn't just go in and see. I don't know.
Well,
I'm saying I don't know, but that's what I'm trying to prevent.
Right. But this is where things have evolved. There never really was a problem, and all of a sudden, the last 3 or 4 years, you got into these heavy clearing areas.
Yeah.
People want to build on a postage stamp, and that's what you get. So, we've had to adapt to that type of, area. And look what we got. We got that guy on 12 who took down 200. Mature forest right there. I don't even know how if that's even come to any kind of. It's probably still out there waiting for the day that it's sold, and then the city will take it off the bottom line.
Well, I mean, there's, property behind my place that belongs to Joe Sam. And they came through and just knocked a whole bunch of trees down. And they're just half laying there, and I don't know whether they had permission to.
Right.
It was like from behind Village Green, starting on Earl Road and going all the way down the property. They made like a, not a road, but a trail down there so that they could put up the fence, because they put up a fence on their property. And then, they got the fence up there, and then just this past year, all of a sudden they came through and knocked down a whole bunch more trees, and they're just laying there. I don't know what.
So now how does that fall? Now that's interesting to me, because they own that property, right? So it's their property to do whatever they want to with it.
Well, I mean,
But they have to come when they to a clearing aspect. They have a plan on what they're doing with it, and they needed to bring that plan to the city.
right.
And this is probably maybe one of those vehicles that will bring that kind of an issue, such as what happened out here on 12.
Okay. Now, from my standpoint, in all my years of selling real estate, there's a thing called disclosure. And this is something that I've been really promoting on anything I'm involved with, is that a real estate agent is supposed to know these things, like the tree, all of these things. Now, they don't always know all of it, but unless they are given the information, that's the purpose of it. Basically, if there was disclosure in that situation whereby she had sold that property, she would have had to disclose to those people that bought it that there is something in place whereby we can't just remove trees off of this property. We have to get it. We have to go through what we have to go through, and basically, then they could have adjusted or altered the plans on that home, driveway, all that sort of things to meet our guidelines. So that's what I'm saying. I think we need something educational wise that we can disperse to the real estate offices and the realtors, so they know what they're dealing with. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Businesses
some kind
and
of
so on and so forth.
educational thing,
Well, I do see that, and Jessica and I worked on a couple, on one particular one that's, I don't know where it's at, but I don't know how it's going. But we went and we looked, and we'll see how it ends up going.
Well, the one I presented for the historic district, it was presented to my office basically, and they spent one whole morning in discussion over the historic district, because nobody there realized that when you sell a house in the historic district, there are guidelines, and you have to go get a C of A, you have to do this, you have to do that. And so now I have realtors calling me saying, what else is going on that we might be liable for, kind of thing. But I always find that it's just a lack of knowledge many times that you can prevent some of these things going on. And I see our tree situation headed in that direction. I agree with you, Nick, on that. The future we're facing a different future of building and that sort of thing than what we have experienced. And I think this would just be a good time to get our foot in the door and put the guidelines out there, so it might prevent some of these things like Mickey is dealing with.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Well,
that's just my...
do you... Well,
I
they have to look
Jessica-
up the ordinance and then read it through.
That's what I'm saying. I don't mind working on it all, except I don't know myself. I mean, I found that so interesting because I'm on the tree board now. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I have...
I don't know what half of these things are.
I mean, I have... obviously copies of it and everything, and
and
puts a little something together.
It doesn't have to be extensive. We don't want to get into too great of a detail, because real estate people are not attorneys. They're just facilitating the sale of something, and they just need to show this to you and say, here, before you buy it, this is what you need to look at.
Well, I think that, and also a press release would be wise.
That sounds like a real important educational thing, because it's obviously better to stop these things from happening
Right,
than to
right.
try to clean up afterwards. But
right.
I'm wondering how much of this should be the planning commission? How much should they be involved? Because I think this was their bill in the first place.
Yeah, well, you have to go before
That's a
the
good
planning
question.
commission.
Well, it was redevelopment.
Yeah.
Redevelopment. Well, and you know, and in my conversations with the planning department, you know, I mean, I think, you know, we have, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, we can really take the lead on how we want to, you know, advertise and spread awareness. And then also, like, when the new administration comes in, determine, you know, what our enforcement ranges are going to be, if you want to put it that way.
Well, the planning commission would be, I mean, like a whole project, if you were doing a subdivision or whatever, that would be the planning commission's
Yes.
deal.
Yeah.
You know, all we want to do is say, hey, if you are going to participate in this subdivision, whatever you want to call it, these are here's some guidelines.
Right.
That's all.
Well, the planning department,
you know,
they've been calling, I mean, I attend all their meetings on, like, new construction,
yeah,
in the spirit of enforcing this ordinance.
right.
So, I mean,
yeah.
But I do think, you know, there needs to be,
Just knowledge. That's all.
more education.
Knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's all. Just
Well, you know, this ordinance itself is probably no more than 6 months old right now. So everybody
Right.
itself
Right.
is
Right.
plowing through it and taking it apart. And it was a battle and a half to get
Right.
Yeah.
it down. And we kind of got a little bit of what we wanted, kind of, but it was, you know, Craig did a great job to include us.
Yes. Yes.
So,
We were lucky.
I mean, there was a lot of back and forth and, you know, I guess horse trading and
Right. That's how it goes.
yes. All right. We'll move. Any other board member comments?
Are we going to replace Bill? Are we going to have another member?
That's up to
The
mayor.
mayor.
That's up to the
Is that a mayoral appointment? Were you guys mayoral? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then Dwayne will have to.
Do we have any input in?
Well, I was thinking about that.
And a letter was sent to the mayor of his resignation also. So,
You know, when we had the forester from the state come out here, and she was very happy with the verse that we had. But I guess a lot of other tree boards have more male dominance on them, and we have more of a female dominance. So I would probably maybe looking for a male Bill side of what he would have to say. But that's just my own feeling.
Well, actually, how it's done is basically that anybody who might be interested in being on the board just goes and fills out one of the applications in the clerk's office, and they would designate on there they would like to be on the the tree board, and basically then that's, I'm sure, given to the mayor or whatever, so he can look it over. So if you have anybody that's interested, that's the thing of it. People they don't know that too. If we know anybody that would be interested to being on a tree board, that's what we need to tell them to do so they can be considered.
It's this day and age, finding even a younger.
Yeah.
It is very tough to find that younger group.
Yeah.
And I think a younger person too might be a plus, and get their look at things,
Yeah, I agree.
But what we get, we'll look at and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I think the idea is that if somebody puts their name down for a specific board, they must have some interest, but...
You have to have a little bit of experiences other than I have to look at it. I know for there is a certain criteria that I help fill, Laura helps fill, you help fill, Johnny helps fill, and then I think there's mostly what do I want to say? Civilian type of people out there with some sort of knowledge, but that knowledge is not held to you as like there has to be somebody sitting on the board that actually has an agricultural degree and experiences, stuff like that. You know, we have to keep that. Someday, if that were to happen, I would be a tough person to fill that spot. You would have to really, somebody else would have to really.
Well, that's why we kept even the officers. You know, we discussed it and we said, you know, actually, we just don't see a reason to change as long as everybody's in agreement to stay on because it's working so well. You know, why would we, you know, disrupt that? You know.
Well, there's always an exit policy or somewhere down the line.
An exit strategy.
They call it the back door.
Well, you know, I tried it, but it didn't work.
Tangential to that, but sort of thinking about credentials of board members, I actually just got my approval from the ISA that I can sit for my certified arborist exam.
That was quick.
Yeah. Well, I have over my diverse work experience, cumulative 3 years of related experience that I was able to get verified and submit for that. So I'm actually I've been studying actually since I got hired. So I'm actually hoping to have that scheduled and completed and have that certification by the end of the year. So literally in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
good
She's a
job.
busy person.
Well, wish me luck.
You don't mess around.
I do not.
All right, let's move. Any public comment? I don't see any
No
public
public
tonight.
tonight.
The next meeting would be January the 8th, 2002. That's
2020.
1 week later because of
Yeah.
the holiday falling on the Wednesday. So if everybody is okay, we'll go with that one. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so move.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.